You know that feeling deep inside when something just isn't right? When someone you love, the person you've laughed with, shared memories with, suddenly feels different? Like their energy has shifted, like darkness has wrapped around them, pulling them away from who they used to be. Maybe it's your best friend, your sibling, or even your own parent, and you can't quite explain it, but you feel it. A weight, a change, something that makes your soul uneasy. This isn't about horror movies or superstition. This is real. There are forces that work through people, forces that manipulate, deceive, and destroy from the inside out. And if you're not paying attention, you might not even realize what's happening until it's too late. But here's the truth. The signs are always there. You just have to know how to see them. Before we dive in, take a deep breath. This might be uncomfortable. It might challenge you. But if someone in your life is being influenced by something dark, you need to know the truth, because the sooner you see it, the sooner you can protect yourself and maybe even save them. Let's talk about the signs. This is where you need to pay attention. They used to be the person you could count on, the one who would listen, laugh, and lift you up when you were down. But now something has changed. It didn't happen overnight, but piece by piece, they've become someone unrecognizable. Their words cut deeper, their tone drips with resentment, and the love they once showed seems to have vanished. Where there was warmth, there's now a cold, heavy presence. At first, you might have thought they were just going through something, a bad day, a rough patch in life. You excused it, telling yourself they were just stressed, just tired, just overwhelmed. But then it became a pattern. The sharp comments, the constant criticism, the way they look at you as if you're the enemy. You start to notice that nothing is ever good enough for them anymore. No matter how much love and patience you offer, they always find a reason to lash out. And it's not just with you. You see them carrying this energy everywhere they go. They pick fights over nothing, find reasons to be angry at people who have done nothing wrong. The things that used to bring them joy now seem to irritate them. Laughter has been replaced with sarcasm and bitterness. They take offense at things that wouldn't have bothered them before. They seem to enjoy stirring up conflict, as if feeding off the negativity they create. What's even scarier is the way they talk. Their words don't just hurt, they poison. They don't argue with the intent of solving anything. They argue to destroy. They say things they know will break you, will cut into the deepest, most sensitive parts of your heart. And when they see you hurting, they don't seem to care. In fact, sometimes they seem to enjoy it. They say things no person with love in their heart would say, and yet, when they're around other people, especially those they want to impress, they can switch. In public, they may appear completely different, charming even, fooling others into believing they're still the same person you once knew. But you've seen the truth. You've seen the darkness lurking beneath the surface, the way their anger seems almost unnatural, as if it's being fueled by something unseen. You've felt it, haven't you? That moment when they look at you, and for a split second, you don't recognize them anymore. Their eyes seem different, their energy feels heavy, and it's as if something else is looking through them, not just at you. It's chilling. And the worst part, no matter how much you try to love them, to bring them back to the person they used to be, it's never enough. The more you give, the more they take. The more you try to reason, the more they twist your words. They make you feel crazy, like you're the one with the problem. But deep down, you know something is wrong. This isn't just someone being moody or having a bad time in life. This is something deeper, something darker. This is how it starts. An unexplainable shift in their energy, a transformation that turns love into hate, kindness into cruelty. And if you don't recognize it for what it is, you'll keep trying to fix what you can't fix. The truth is, when someone is under the influence of darkness, you can't love them out of it. You can't fight their battles for them. You can only recognize the signs and protect yourself before you lose yourself in the process. It starts subtly, a small comment here, a strange reaction there. At first you brush it off, thinking maybe you misheard or misunderstood, but over time you begin to notice a pattern. They twist your words, making you doubt yourself. They remember events differently, always in a way that makes them the victim and you the villain. No matter what happens, somehow it's always your fault. They manipulate conversations so smoothly that by the time they're done talking, you're left questioning your own reality. Maybe you did overreact. Maybe you were being too sensitive. Maybe they're right and you're the problem. That's how it works. Bit by bit, they chip away at your confidence, your perception, your sense of self. They make you doubt your own instincts, and they know exactly what they're doing. They don't argue to find solutions, they argue to control. They twist logic until up feels like down, until right and wrong blur together. They'll accuse you of things you never did, and when you try to defend yourself, they'll say, "See, this is what I mean. You always do this." It doesn't matter what you say because, in their mind, they've already rewritten the truth. One of their most powerful weapons is guilt. They know how to make you feel responsible for their happiness, their pain, their failures. If they're upset, it must be because of you. If something goes wrong in their life, you should have done more to prevent it. They make you feel like no matter how much you give, it's never enough. And the second you set a boundary, the second you say, "I can't do this anymore," they flip the script. Suddenly, you're the one abandoning them. You're the selfish one. You're the problem. But it doesn't stop there. They play mind games so well that you don't even realize you're playing. One day, they're warm and affectionate, making you feel like you mean everything to them. The next, they're cold and distant, punishing you with silence, making you desperate for their approval again. This cycle repeats over and over until you feel like you're walking on eggshells, constantly adjusting yourself to keep them happy. And what happens when you finally stand up for yourself? When you call them out? That's when they really turn up the manipulation. They gaslight you, making you feel crazy for even thinking they could be in the wrong. "I never said that. You're making things up. You always twist things." They erase reality right in front of your eyes, making you second-guess everything you know to be true. And if gaslighting doesn't work, they'll play the victim. Suddenly, they're the wounded one. They'll bring up all the things they've suffered, all the times you let them down. They'll cry, they'll beg, they'll make you feel like the worst person in the world for daring to question them. They know that deep down, you're a good person, and they weaponize that against you. The scariest part, over time, this kind of manipulation rewires your brain. You start to accept blame for things that aren't your fault. You shrink yourself, trying to avoid conflict. You silence your own needs because you've been conditioned to believe they don't matter. You become a version of yourself that they can control. And that's exactly what they want. Because this isn't just about power. It's about keeping you weak. The weaker you feel, the easier you are to manipulate. The more you doubt yourself, the more you rely on them for validation. And once they have that kind of control over you, it's almost impossible to break free. Unless you recognize it for what it is, unless you step back and realize this is not love, this is not friendship, this is not normal, this is manipulation. And the only way to win against manipulation is to stop playing the game. There was a time when they cared, when they would listen, when they would comfort, when they would look at you with warmth in their eyes, but now that person is gone. Something in them has shifted. Where there was once kindness, there's now indifference. Where there was once empathy, there's now a cold, hollow stare. You notice it in small ways at first. Maybe they used to ask how you were doing, and now they don't bother. Maybe they used to feel deeply for others, crying during sad movies or expressing concern when someone was in pain, but now they shrug it off. Tragedy doesn't faze them. People's suffering seems almost amusing to them. It's as if their heart has gone numb. It's not just you who notices it either. Other people start to feel uncomfortable around them. Friends, family members, even strangers pick up on it, that eerie detachment, that chilling lack of compassion. Someone could be pouring their heart out, breaking down in front of them, and their response is nothing. No comfort, no concern, just a blank stare or a dismissive comment. And then there's the way they talk about others. They don't just criticize people, they dehumanize them. They speak with such cruelty, such venom, as if other people's pain is nothing more than entertainment. They take pleasure in tearing others down, making fun of their struggles, pointing out their flaws with a smile. It's not just a mean streak, it's something darker. There's a coldness in their words, a complete lack of remorse for the hurt they cause. But the scariest part, it's not just strangers or enemies they treat this way. It's the people closest to them. The ones who have always been there for them, the ones who have loved them unconditionally. They betray trust without a second thought. They lie, they manipulate, they hurt the people who have done nothing but support them. And when they're caught, no apology, no guilt, no sign that they even care. You start to wonder, were they always this way? Was there ever real love in their heart? Or was it just an illusion? a mask they wore until they no longer needed it, because now it's gone. That warmth, that humanity, it's been stripped away, leaving behind someone who sees relationships not as bonds of love, but as tools for control. And when you try to confront them, to ask them what happened, they don't understand what you mean. They look at you as if you're the one being dramatic, as if you're imagining things, because in their world, emotions are weaknesses, empathy is a burden, and those who expect kindness are just fools waiting to be used. So you start to question yourself. Maybe you're overreacting. Maybe they're just tired, just stressed. But then you see it again, that moment when they witness someone else's pain and feel nothing. That moment when they say something so heartless, so cruel that you can't believe it came out of their mouth. And that's when it hits you. This isn't just a phase. This isn't just them being distant or moody. Something inside them has changed. Or maybe something inside them has taken over. Because a person without empathy, a person who finds joy in cruelty, a person who looks at love and sees nothing but a game to be played, that's not just a broken person. That's someone who has let darkness into their soul. And once that happens, once empathy is gone, it rarely ever comes back. At first, it was just a little lie. Something small, something harmless. Maybe they twisted a story just a bit to make themselves look better, or left out a detail to avoid taking responsibility. You caught it, but you let it slide. Everyone lies sometimes, right? But then it happened again and again. And soon you realized that the person you trusted wasn't just bending the truth. They were living in a world of lies. You started noticing the contradictions. They would tell you one thing and then swear they never said it. They would make promises and then act like they never made them. And when you confronted them, they would laugh it off, act like you were crazy for even questioning them. I never said that. You must have misunderstood. Why do you always make things up? And little by little, you started doubting yourself. Maybe you were the problem. Maybe you were being too sensitive. But deep down, you knew the truth. They weren't just lying to avoid trouble. They were lying to control, to manipulate, to keep you in a constant state of uncertainty. Because if they can make you question reality, if they can make you doubt your own memories, they can control how you see the world. They can make themselves the victim in every story, the hero in every conflict. And worst of all, they can convince you that you're the villain. It's not just you they lie to either. They lie to everyone. They shift between different versions of themselves depending on who they're talking to. One person gets the charming, sweet side. Another gets the bitter, resentful side. To their family, they might be the perfect, loving child. To their friends, they might be the misunderstood rebel. And to you, you see all the masks, all the shifting personalities, and you wonder, do they even know who they really are anymore? The scariest part isn't just the lying. It's how good they are at it. There's no hesitation, no guilt, no flicker of remorse when they weave a story out of thin air. They can look you in the eyes with absolute confidence and tell you something you know isn't true. And if you push back, if you catch them in the lie, they won't apologize. They won't back down. They'll double down. They'll twist the story again, manipulate the details, and suddenly you're the one on the defensive. You start feeling exhausted, drained, because every interaction with them feels like a game, one you never agreed to play. You don't know what's real and what's fake anymore. Did they mean what they said yesterday, or was that just another manipulation? Can you trust what they say today, or will they deny it tomorrow? You feel like you're losing your grip on reality, like the truth is slipping through your fingers. And that's exactly what they want, because the more confused you are, the easier you are to control. If you're constantly questioning yourself, you won't question them. If you're always second guessing what's real, you'll start relying on them to tell you what's true. And once they have that power over your mind, they can do anything. This isn't just dishonesty. This isn't just a bad habit. This is something deeper, something darker. Because when someone is willing to lie without hesitation, when they can manipulate reality without guilt, when they can make you doubt your own memory, that's not just deception, it's evil. And if you don't recognize it for what it is, you'll keep falling into their trap. You'll keep believing the apologies that never mean anything. You'll keep forgiving the lies that will never stop. And before you know it, you won't even remember what it felt like to trust yourself. At first, it feels like passion, like intensity, like they just care so much. When they get angry, it's because They're just emotional. When they explode, it's because they've been pushed too far. That's what you tell yourself. That's what they tell you. But over time, you realize this isn't just anger, this isn't just frustration, this is rage. And it's unpredictable, uncontrollable, and terrifying. It doesn't take much to set them off. One wrong word, one misunderstood look, and suddenly they're a different person. The warmth in their eyes turns to ice, or worse, fire. You can feel the shift, the energy in the room changing in an instant. And then it happens. The outburst, the storm. It could be yelling, slamming doors, throwing things, or just a cold, cutting silence that lasts for hours. But no matter how it plays out, one thing is always the same. You are left feeling small. And it's not just you. They lash out at waiters, at strangers, at people who don't even deserve it. Someone makes a small mistake, and instead of brushing it off, they erupt. You see the way people around them tense up, the way friends start keeping their distance, the way family members walk on eggshells. No one ever knows what will set them off next, and that's the scariest part. Because when someone's rage is unpredictable, it means no one is ever safe. But here's the thing. It's controlled. They know when to turn it off. When they're around people they want to impress, they're charming. They smile, they hold it together, but the moment they're behind closed doors, that mask comes off. That's how you know it's not just them being bad at handling their emotions. It's calculated. They choose when to unleash it and who to unleash it on. And then, just as suddenly as it appears, the rage disappears like it never happened. No apology, no accountability. If you bring it up later, they act like you're the one holding a grudge. Why are you still on about that? You're too sensitive. You always make a big deal out of nothing. So you learn to adapt. You change how you speak, how you move, how you breathe around them. You carefully measure every word, watching their face for signs of a storm brewing. You convince yourself that if you just do everything right, if you just stay small and quiet enough, maybe, just maybe, they won't explode this time. But no matter how careful you are, it still happens, because the truth is, it was never about you. It was never about what you did or didn't do. It was always about control. They don't just want power over situations. They want power over you, over your emotion, over your fear. They feed off the tension, off the way you shrink yourself, off the way your body flinches at the sound of their voice rising. And the worst part, over time you start to normalize it. You start to believe that this is what love looks like, that this is just how people are, that everyone has a temper, that maybe you really are just too sensitive. But deep down, you know this isn't right. Love shouldn't feel like fear. Friendship shouldn't feel like walking through a minefield. No one who truly cares about you should ever make you feel unsafe, not even for a second. Because this kind of rage, this kind of calculated, controlled, and targeted anger isn't just someone having a bad day, it's darkness. And the longer you stay in its presence, the more it will consume you.